Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by Ndis Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Debbie from Ndis Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Today we are actually diverting a little bit away from SDA, and we're talking more of a generic NDIS issue that has come to light recently, or when I say issue, it's probably not the right word. It is a new program that the federal government has put forward as a new initiative to help save the NDIS. And to discuss this today, I've got Kassy from our SDA Housing team. Hello. Hello, Kassy. So obviously we've been talking a little bit about this, and we've both done a bit of investigation into what the Thriving Kids program is all about. You know, I like to think that at the end of the day, this is going to be good for the NDIS. But Kassy, you've got a whole lot of what ifs, and I guess, you know, the bad side of how this might impact people. So let's first talk about what it is, what it's meant to be there for, what it's meant to do, and then we can discuss our thoughts. Okay, so Kassy, do you want to walk us through actually what the Thriving Kids program has been proposed by the government?
Yeah, so pretty much the government has decided to implement a service that supports children with autism under the age of 8. The goal is to support these children through early intervention.
Early intervention.
Yeah. And then also just supporting the children through their schooling and health and
GP.
Yeah.
Early learning centres.
Pretty much anything that they would need relating to learning and health and education. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is obviously to stop them coming onto the NDIS. Now, the whole reason behind this is that the NDIS's original focus was for people with permanent and significant disabilities. And I guess it could be argued that children under 8 who have developmental delays, mild to moderate developmental delays or autism, do not necessarily have a permanent and significant disability. So at the outset, when I look at it that way, I think this makes absolute perfect sense. So that's what the program is, a bit more about how it's going to be implemented or what the plans are. It's looking to be launched by the 1st of July next year, that's 2026, with a $2 billion commitment over 5 years to be co-funded by the states and territories. And as Kassy already said, so delivered through existing community systems such as maternal, child health, schools and GPs. Now, the purpose will be to provide early developmental supports and reduce NDIS enrollments for children with lower level needs. So maybe just run through the points that we've identified that we're concerned about how it fits in with the broader NDIS reforms.
Yes. My biggest concern is what happens to the children that are currently on the NDIS that fall under this category? What happens to the children that are older than 8 but fall under this category, because a 9-year-old is still a child? How is that transition process going to look? Are these children going to feel supported, and are their families going to feel supported, or are they going to fall through the cracks of government systems once again?
That's a really good point, falling through the cracks. That's exactly what we don't want to happen. And when you've taken the NDIS, which is obviously a federal program, and then you're handing control back to, even though it is a federal program, as they've said, it is going to be in conjunction with the states and territories. I think there is definitely the potential for things are going to be different in each state. Kids probably will fall through the cracks. But back to the first point you raised is the transition. How are children currently in the NDIS who fall into this classification going to be moved over? Well, from a year after they are looking to implement the Thriving Kids program, they want to start transitioning children off the NDIS into the new system. That is definitely going to be a complicated process at the very least, I would say. And this is, they're going to have to spend that year in really putting together this program and making it work so that there is going to be a smooth transition across. So yeah, that is definitely a concern. But at the same time, I think that half of the participants in the NDIS are children, and the growth that we're seeing, every quarter we get new data out and the number of participants is growing rapidly. And the largest cohort of people becoming NDIS participants is children, a lot of whom have these early developmental delays and issues. So I'm playing good cop. And I think that this is, whilst there's a lot that needs to be worked out, and we know how wonderful the NDIS is at working out systems and processes, I think it's a good plan.
I think in theory it's a good plan, but I don't think it's been discussed enough or thought through enough.
Mm. Well, I guess this was only proposed a few months ago, and there hasn't really been a lot of, or any talk have come out of the NDIS about any systems and processes that are currently underway. So,
I mean, I read somewhere that some of the states weren't even briefed on this system, which is a little bit concerning.
That's very concerning. Yeah. So I think, yeah, look, the NDIS needs to do something to stop these vast numbers of children from becoming part of the reason that the NDIS is struggling to fund itself and to provide the supports needed for people who've got permanent disabilities. But we've got, schools and health clinics, GP clinics across all the different states and territories having to, fill these gaps and work within systems that don't currently exist. However, schools and GPs and health clinics work very well in other areas. So why can they not implement a new system just for children under 8 who have these delays and autism and need relatively minor. I'm not downplaying the fact that they do need assistance, and the whole reason that they've been accepted into the NDIS is because they do. But yeah, I guess it's just, I see that where the NDIS is going, they need to find a way to make the NDIS more sustainable and therefore a program that can continue to provide the support for Australians who really need that long-term permanent disability assistance. So,
something that
there. I think it's a great idea, but do you want to talk more about your concerns?
Something that I want to add on is, I know personally, my niece, she 100% has autism. You can just see it in her, but it will be very difficult to get her diagnosed because, well, she's a toddler, she's a kid, they're just going to run around, they're just going to be crazy like that. So is the NDIS planning on setting up a more intricate net to diagnose children with autism? Because kids are kids.
Obviously, it's not going to be the NDIS, is it?
Yeah.
It's going to be the regular health system. So again, how does anyone get diagnosed with anything? I think it's going to be really up to schools, GP clinics at the initial outset to put in processes to assist in this diagnosis, because the NDIS is going to have wiped their hands of it by then, essentially. So what about some of the other concerns that you have?
I'm concerned about these children being isolated, I guess. They're put into a much smaller and much more direct category of, you will fit into this Thriving Kids program. And it might cause more challenges for them than being on the NDIS would.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about, though, the issues that parents are facing with even getting an NDIS plans in place with the right kind of funding and accessing that and having support coordinators that get the right committed funds there and being able to access it through plan managers that are no longer able to access funds? Maybe going to your GP and having a system that is far more aligned with the traditional medical system actually might work better.
It seems like there's about to be a lot of weight put on the GP's shoulders.
Very true.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, what happened in the past? Before we had the NDIS, kids were diagnosed with autism and they did have access to certain therapies or helps. I guess it's going to be just building up on whatever foundations there were of that. Now, I don't know anything about this area. So I'm just talking blindly here, but we're just trying to hash out the pros and the cons of how this could happen. And I don't know how the medical system works, but surely the medical system has been around for far, far longer than the NDIS, and they should have the processes in place to assist kids under 8 who need a bit more help.
You'll just have to hope that they have the capacity to handle all of these new patients.
Yes. And obviously there's got to be a lot more funding involved. And this is why there is a $2 billion initial investment from the government. And that won't go far, I know, but this is where the states have to get involved and there has to be an agreement before this is launched. So we're now looking at 6, 7, 8 months away to actually have something that's actually realistically going to even work.
And that's not a lot of time in the big picture.
Mm. But like I said, they announced this a few months ago. We've heard nothing more really. So I would like to think that there is a team, and there is actually a team under I'm just going to find it in my notes, the Commonwealth State Joint Commonwealth State Working Groups led by Professor Frank Oberkalade is running the co-design process, consulting with parents, allied health bodies, and the NDIS Reform Advisory Committee. So I'd like to think that in the background, they're working very hard to figure out how this is all going to go. And remember, this is all we know is the fact that it has been proposed. This is the planned time frame, and really we haven't had any more clarification up until this point. So I guess we just wanted to put it out there that there is something new that is going to potentially help the NDIS survive, given the vast increase in NDIS participant numbers over the past. We've been looking at stats probably for about 4 years now, and the numbers have nearly doubled in that time. So everyone knows the NDIS is not sustainable as it is, and if this is something that can help through different types of funding from different sources and help the NDIS do what it's been designed to do in the first place, let's hope some good comes of this.
I mean, if the NDIS is already not falling apart, but...
Oh, have faith, Kassy.
There's a couple of holes in their system that are quite significant. I'm hesitant about their judgment on this new system, to put it politely.
Yeah, look, we all know the NDIS has a lot of work to do to become a better run organisation, to do the right thing. There's been all sorts of management changes. We know that. Look, it's still a new system. It's not even fully 10 years old yet. So yes, it is still in its infancy. If you look at the aged care system, that probably, was really primitive and horrible decades ago when that first really started out. So let's give the NDIS a chance. Let's give it every chance of getting through these early teething growing pains. And hopefully this is one of the things that will help it do that, and at the same time create a new system that will help kids who also need this help.
Yes, very interested to see how it plays out and grows.
Yep. But God save the NDIS. And I'm sure that's what this is all actually about. So that's it for today. Just a little overview of this new initiative by the government and how it may or may not impact the NDIS. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.